My dear friends, life is a journey full of twists and turns. Sometimes it feels like we are on a smooth highway, and sometimes it feels like we are stuck on a broken road filled with potholes. We all dream of a life that goes according to our plans, straight, predictable, and easy. But have you ever noticed? Life never really happens that way. And maybe that's because our plan is not the ultimate plan. God has a bigger plan. Think about this. How many times in your life have you wanted something so badly, but later, when it didn't happen, you realized it was actually good for you? At that moment, you might have cried, felt broken, or even complained, "Why me?" But years later, when you looked back, you smiled and said, "No, I know why it happened. Life is like a puzzle. We only see a few pieces at a time. But God sees the whole picture, and when we learn to trust the journey, even when it makes no sense, even when it hurts, we will discover that every setback is a setup for something greater." Friends, let me share a small story. Once, a man missed his flight. He was furious, frustrated, and disappointed. But later, he found out that the flight he missed had crashed. Sometimes, what feels like rejection is actually God's protection. What feels like a delay is actually God's direction. We must understand God's plan is always better than our plan, even when it doesn't look like it. Life is not about asking, "Why did this happen to me?" Life is about asking, "What is life trying to teach me?" When we trust the journey, we learn patience. When we trust the journey, we learn strength. And when we trust the journey, we learn gratitude for every small blessing along the way. So, if you are going through struggles today, remember, this is not the end of your story. It is just a chapter. A book is never judged by a single page. Similarly, your life cannot be judged by a single moment of pain. Trust the author of your life because he knows exactly how the story will unfold. Let me remind you of this. A seed has to be buried in darkness before it sprouts. A diamond has to be under pressure before it shines. And a caterpillar has to go through the cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. The pain, the waiting, the challenges, they are not the end, they are the preparation. So, my humble request to all of you is this: don't give up when life doesn't go your way. Don't lose hope when doors close. Don't complain when the road gets rough. Instead, whisper to yourself, "God has a plan. I may not see it now, but I will one day." Remember, the journey of life is not about controlling everything. It's about surrendering with faith. Because when you trust the journey, you will look back one day and say, "Every tear, every struggle, every delay was worth it, because it all led me exactly where I was meant to be." So, my dear friends, live with trust, live with patience, and live with gratitude. God has a plan. Trust the journey of life. God's plan is bigger than our plan. This one line is so powerful that it can transform the way we see life. We live in a world where we are constantly planning, constantly dreaming, and constantly trying to control everything around us. We make goals, we set deadlines, and we write down what we think is the perfect roadmap to our happiness. And yet, how many times have you noticed that life doesn't follow our roadmap? Sometimes, no matter how hard we try, things don't go according to our expectations. That's where this simple truth comes in: God's plan is bigger than our plan. Imagine you are traveling by train, you have your seat booked, your destination fixed, and your schedule set. But sometimes the train takes a detour. At first, you may get frustrated and ask, why this delay? Why this route? But the train driver knows the track better than you. He can see obstacles that you cannot. Similarly, we may know what we want, but God knows what we need. He can see things ahead of us that we are completely blind to. Think about a child holding a toy. If the parent takes it away to give them a better one, the child may cry, thinking life is unfair, but the parent knows something the child doesn't, that what is coming is far better. In the same way, sometimes we cry over closed doors, missed opportunities, or broken relationships. We think, why is God doing this to me? But maybe God is removing something from your life to make space for something greater. Many times in life, we look at success as a straight line. Study hard, get a job, earn money, build a family, and be happy. But life is not a straight line. It's full of bends, crossroads, and surprises. If everything always went according to our plan, we would never learn patience, we would never develop resilience, and we would never discover our true strength. God allows us to face unexpected turns because those turns prepare us for destinations we never imagined. Let me share a very practical example. Imagine someone applied for a job that they desperately wanted. They prepared, gave their best in the interview, and prayed for it. But they didn't get selected. At that moment, it feels like the end of the world. But a few months later, a much better opportunity comes their way, something they never even thought of, and it turns out to be the best thing for them. If they had gotten the first job, they might have settled for less. But because that door closed, they walked into something bigger. This is how life works. Our plan is limited, but God's plan is limitless. Another simple example is from daily travel. Sometimes when we are in traffic, we complain, why am I stuck here? But maybe being delayed for a few minutes saved us from a bigger accident ahead. We don't see it at that time, but later we realize, thank God I was delayed. Life works in ways we can't fully understand. Our plan is like looking at the world through a keyhole, narrow, limited, restricted. But God's plan is like looking from the sky, broad, vast, and complete. We see just today, but He sees tomorrow, next month, and even years ahead. That is why trusting His plan gives us peace even in chaos. The truth is, we all want control. We feel safe when we know what will happen next. But real safety does not come from controlling the future. It comes from trusting that the future is in better hands than ours. Just like a passenger sitting in an airplane doesn't control the cockpit, but trusts the pilot, in life, we must trust God as the pilot of our journey. If today you feel disappointed, if today you feel like your plans are not working, pause for a moment. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this teaching me? When we shift our perspective, pain turns into purpose, delays turn into direction, and failures turn into foundations for success. God's plan being bigger than our plan means that even when life is confusing, there is meaning behind it. Even when things fall apart, something greater is being built. It is a reminder that what we see as an ending may just be the beginning of something new. It is a gentle whisper telling us not to give up, not to lose faith, and not to let disappointment steal our hope. When we look back years later, Most of us can recall moments where things didn't go according to our plan, but eventually it turned out better than we imagined. That is not luck, that is grace. That is God's way of showing that His plan has always been greater than ours. So, whenever life surprises you with challenges or disappointments, hold this line close to your heart. God's plan is bigger than my plan. Believe it. Trust it. Because in the end, His plan will always lead you to where you are truly meant to be. Setbacks are often setups for greater things. At first, this statement may sound difficult to accept because when we go through setbacks, all we feel is pain, disappointment, and discouragement. Nobody likes failure, nobody enjoys rejection, and nobody celebrates loss. But if you look closely at life, many times the moments that seemed like setbacks were actually stepping stones leading us toward something greater than what we had imagined. The problem is, we often judge life too early while the story is still unfolding. Imagine an arrow. Before it flies forward, it has to be pulled backward. The farther it is pulled back, the greater its speed and distance when released. In the same way, setbacks in life may feel like we are being pulled back, but perhaps it is only so that we can be launched much further ahead. The struggles we face, the delays we experience, and the failures we endure are not punishments. They are preparation. Think of Thomas Edison. He tried thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. People mocked him, called him a failure, and even advised him to quit. But Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that do not work." Every setback taught him something new. Every failure prepared him for the breakthrough. Without those setbacks, he would never have achieved the success that changed the world. Let us also consider a more relatable example. Suppose a student prepares very hard for an exam but ends up scoring lower than expected. It feels like a big setback. But maybe that failure humbles them, makes them work even harder, and teaches them discipline. Later, when bigger opportunities come in life, that same student is more prepared, more resilient, and more focused because of that initial setback. If everything had gone perfectly, they may never have developed the strength needed for the future. In daily life too, we experience this truth. Have you ever lost something you thought you couldn't live without, only to later realize that life gave you something better? Maybe a relationship broke, a friendship ended, or a job opportunity slipped away. At that moment, it feels like the ground has been pulled from beneath your feet. But with time, you see that it was not the end. It was simply a redirection. That relationship prepared you to value true love. That lost job prepared you to recognize and grab a better one. That closed door led you to a new door you never even knew existed. A setback is never the final chapter of our life. It is just a comma, not a full stop. It slows us down, but it doesn't end our journey. In fact, sometimes setbacks are like life's gentle nudges telling us, "This is not your path. There is something bigger waiting for you." We may not realize it at the time, but later, when we look back, the dots always connect. There is a story of a man who lost his business. He was devastated and thought his life was over. But because he had to start over, he discovered a completely new idea, built a new company, and eventually became more successful than before. The loss of his first business, which seemed like the greatest setback, was actually the setup for his real success. Without that failure, he would never have found his true calling. Even in nature, we see this truth. A seed has to break apart in the soil before it grows into a tree. The caterpillar must struggle inside the cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. Without that breaking and without that struggle, there is no growth, no beauty, no flight. In the same way, our personal struggles often break us, but they also build us into something greater. Setbacks teach us humility. They remind us that we are not in control of everything. They build patience, they shape our character, and they prepare us for bigger responsibilities. If we only had success all the time, we would become proud, careless, and shallow. But because of setbacks, we learn to appreciate success when it comes. So the next time you face a setback, instead of asking, "Why me?" try asking, "What is life preparing me for?" Because what feels like a push backward may actually be the setup for your leap forward. What feels like rejection may be God's way of redirecting you. What feels like loss may actually be gain in disguise. When we adopt this mindset, setbacks stop discouraging us. They start empowering us. We begin to see pain not as punishment, but as preparation. We begin to treat delays not as dead ends, but as detours. And we begin to trust that every challenge carries within it the seed of a greater blessing. Life will always give us setbacks. That is inevitable. But whether we let them break us or build us is our choice. If we embrace them with patience, humility, and faith, they will always turn into setups for something greater. So remember this line deeply. Setbacks are often setups for greater things. Hold it close when you feel discouraged. Whisper it to yourself when you face failure, and remind yourself that your story is not over yet. What feels like a step back is often the hidden beginning of your greatest leap forward. Rejection can be protection. This is a truth that almost everyone has experienced at some point. Yet in the moment of rejection, it feels so painful that we fail to recognize its hidden blessing. When we don't get the job we wanted, when someone says no to our love, when our idea gets ignored, or when life closes a door we were desperate to walk through, the immediate feeling is sadness, frustration, and disappointment. Rejection hurts because it feels like we are not good enough or that life is unfair. But what if behind every rejection there is a deeper reason? What if rejection is not there to harm us, but to save us? Think about this. When a doctor prescribes medicine, they also forbid certain foods. To a patient, it may feel like restriction or rejection, but in truth, the doctor is protecting their health. Similarly, when life rejects us in certain directions, maybe it is saving us from harm that we cannot see. We only see the immediate opportunity, but God or the universe sees the bigger picture. Rejection can simply be redirection. Take the story of someone who applies for their dream job. They do everything, prepare, pray, and perform well in the interview, but they still don't get selected. At that moment, they feel crushed, asking themselves, "What did I do wrong?" Months later, they come across an even better job that suits them perfectly and opens doors to opportunities far greater than the first one. Looking back, they realize that the rejection was actually protection. If they had gotten the first job, they might have been stuck in a place that limited their growth. The same is true in relationships. Many people can recall moments when someone they deeply loved did not love them back, or a relationship ended unexpectedly. At that time, it feels like the world is falling apart. Nights are filled with tears, and the heart feels heavy with loss. But years later, when they find a partner who truly values and supports them, they understand why the earlier rejection happened. That painful no protected them from a future that wasn't right and redirected them toward a relationship where they would be respected, cherished, and loved in the way they deserve. Rejection teaches us that not everything we desire is meant for us. Sometimes we want things out of desperation, ego, or short-term vision. But life's no saves us from choices that could harm us in the long run. Just like a parent does not give a child everything they cry for, because the parent knows what's good for the child, God too does not give us everything we ask for. That denial is not cruelty, it is love in disguise. Even in daily life, we experience this truth in small ways. Have you ever planned to go somewhere but, due to unexpected rejection of your plan, like a cancelled meeting, a missed bus, or a delayed flight, you ended up being saved from something harmful? At first, you might have complained, but later you were grateful. Rejection is often a blessing we only recognize in hindsight. There is also another side to rejection. It builds resilience. Every time we face rejection, we learn to stand up again. We learn to try harder, to improve ourselves, and to find new paths. If everything we wanted came to us easily, we would never grow. Rejection humbles us, strengthens us, and molds us into better versions of ourselves. Take writers, musicians, or entrepreneurs as examples. Many of them faced dozens, even hundreds, of rejections before they succeeded. Famous authors had their books rejected by publishers again and again before one publisher finally said yes. If they had taken rejection as the end, the world would never have seen their work. Those rejections protected them from the wrong opportunities and pushed them toward the right one. Rejection also cleanses our lives. Sometimes when people reject us, they are actually removing themselves from our journey because they are not meant to stay. We might hold on to them tightly, but life knows better. When someone walks away, it may be painful, but often it is because their role in our story is over, and keeping them would only hold us back. That rejection protects us from carrying unnecessary weight and makes space for new blessings. It's like pruning a tree. Cutting branches may seem harsh, but it is necessary for new growth. In the same way, rejection may cut us, but it allows us to grow stronger and healthier in the right direction. So the next time you face rejection, don't see it as an enemy. See it as a guide. It may be life's way of whispering, "This is not your path. I am protecting you from something you cannot see. Trust me." Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" try asking, "What is this saving me from?" That shift in perspective can turn rejection into gratitude. Rejection, when seen correctly, is never the end of the story. It is simply the universe's way of saying, "Not this. Something better is coming." If we hold on to faith and patience, we will one day look back and realize that every rejection was protection in disguise, and every no was preparing us for a more beautiful yes. So remember this deeply. Rejection can be protection. Trust it, embrace it, and let it guide you toward the life you were truly meant to live. Delays are not denials, but directions. This thought has the power to calm a restless heart and give peace to an anxious mind. In life, we all desire quick results. We want our dreams fulfilled instantly, our problems solved immediately, and our prayers answered right away. But life doesn't always move at the speed of our wishes. Sometimes we work hard, we wait, and yet things don't happen when we want them to. In those moments, impatience grows inside us, and we start to believe that the delay is a denial. But the truth is, a delay is not always a no. Many times it is life's way of saying, "Not now. I am preparing you. I am preparing the situation, and I am guiding you toward the right time." Think of a farmer who plants seeds. The day he puts the seed into the soil, he doesn't expect fruits the next morning. He knows that nature works on its own timeline. There is a season for everything: planting, growing, and harvesting. The seed takes time to sprout, the plant takes time to mature, and only then does it bear fruit. If the farmer becomes impatient and digs up the seed to check its progress, he destroys the process. Similarly, in our lives, the dreams we plant also need time to grow. The delay does not mean nothing is happening. It simply means the roots are forming deep inside, unseen, so that when the time is right, the fruit will be strong and lasting. In daily life, we often experience delays. Imagine you are rushing to catch a bus, but you miss it. You feel upset and irritated, thinking the day is ruined. But later, you realize that missing that bus actually allowed you to meet someone on the next bus who changed your life, or it saved you from being in an accident. The delay was not a denial of your journey. It was a redirection towards something safer, better, or more meaningful. Think also about the dreams we chase. A young person may dream of becoming successful early in life, but success does not always come instantly. Some of the greatest leaders, inventors, and creators in history faced long periods of delay before their breakthroughs. Their dreams didn't happen overnight, and if they had quit in the waiting period, the world would have lost their contributions. The delay they experienced was shaping their skills, teaching them resilience, and giving them wisdom to handle the success that was coming. Sometimes we pray for something with all our heart, but the answer doesn't come immediately. In those moments, we feel ignored. But perhaps the delay is God's way of saying, "You are not ready yet. I am shaping you. I am aligning things for your good." Just like a parent may not give a child the car keys until the child is mature enough to drive safely, God may delay certain blessings until we are ready to handle them with responsibility. The waiting period is not wasted, it is preparation. Delays also teach us patience. In today's world, where everything is instant food, instant communication, instant gratification, we forget that real growth takes time. When life delays our desires, it humbles us and teaches us endurance. It reminds us that we cannot control everything. It builds trust in a higher timing. It softens our arrogance and makes us more grateful when the blessing finally arrives. Imagine cooking a delicious dish. If you turn up the flame too high to make it faster, you burn it. The right heat and the right amount of time are needed to bring out the perfect flavor. In the same way, rushing life doesn't bring the best results. The delay allows everything to come together in the right balance, so that when the blessing finally arrives, it is far sweeter and more fulfilling than if it had come earlier. Delays are also a form of protection. Sometimes, if our wish was granted immediately, it might have harmed us. For example, if someone got their dream promotion too early without the maturity to handle it, the pressure could break them. If someone entered into a relationship before they healed from past wounds, it could end in pain. The delay is life's way of giving us time to become strong enough, wise enough, and ready enough for what we desire. Looking back at life, many of us can recall situations where we were frustrated by delays, but later realized how perfectly things worked out. That job that came months later, that opportunity that took years, or that relationship that arrived after heartbreak, all of them proved that the delay wasn't a denial. It was simply direction, guiding us to the right place at the right time. So when you face delays, don't lose heart. Don't assume that your dream is impossible. Don't think that God has forgotten you. Instead, remind yourself, this delay is not the end. It is direction. It is preparation. It is teaching me patience and guiding me towards something greater. When we see delays through this lens, they stop frustrating us and start inspiring us. The truth is, life's timeline is wiser than ours. We may want things fast, but life wants things to last. And for things to last, they must come at the right time. The delay is only life's way of ensuring that when we finally receive what we desire, we are truly ready to enjoy it and sustain it. So, carry this thought in your heart. Delays are not denials, but directions. Trust the timing of your life, believe in the process, and know that the waiting period is not wasted. It is shaping you for the blessing that is on its way. And when it finally comes, you will realize that the delay was never a punishment. It was a gift. Life is a puzzle. God sees the whole picture. This simple yet profound truth can bring comfort during the most confusing times of our lives. When we look at life, we only see small pieces here and there, our struggles, our disappointments, our achievements, our dreams. Sometimes these pieces don't seem to fit together. They look random, scattered, and meaningless. But what we often forget is that God is the master puzzle maker. He sees the final picture while we are only staring at individual fragments. Think about doing an actual puzzle. When you first dump the pieces on the table, it looks like a complete mess. You don't know where each piece belongs. Some pieces have strange shapes, some have dull colors, and some seem useless. But as you slowly put them together, you begin to see how perfectly they fit. The same happens in our lives. The struggles, the delays, the heartbreaks, the moments of joy, and even the failures, they are all pieces of a much bigger design. Alone, they may not make sense, but together, they form the masterpiece of our life. Take a practical example. Suppose you lost a job and felt it was the worst thing that ever happened to you. At that moment, you are only looking at one piece of the puzzle, and it looks terrible. But later, that very loss might push you to start a business, explore a hidden talent, or move to a better opportunity. When you look back years later, you realize that if that piece had been missing, your life would not have turned out the way it did. This is why trusting the bigger picture is so important. Our vision is limited. We see today, but God sees tomorrow. We see the struggle, but He sees the growth. We see the pain, but He sees the purpose. Just because one piece looks odd doesn't mean it has no place. It simply means its value will be revealed when the rest of the puzzle comes together. Consider the life of great personalities. Many of them went through hardships that at the time made no sense. They faced rejection, failure, and loss. But later, when the pieces connected, their lives became an inspiration to millions. Imagine if they had given up midway because they couldn't understand why things were happening. They would have missed the masterpiece their lives were meant to become. Even in everyday experiences, this truth appears. Sometimes you meet a stranger who says something that changes your perspective forever. At that moment, it feels like a coincidence. But later you realize that meeting was one piece of the puzzle. Or think of times when you missed an opportunity only to find a greater one waiting for you. Each event, whether good or bad, is a part of the larger design that only makes sense when seen in its entirety. Life can feel very frustrating when we demand answers too soon. It's like wanting to see the full puzzle picture when only a few pieces are in place. We get impatient and angry, wondering why things are not making sense. But just because you cannot see the full picture, yet does not mean it isn't being formed. The unseen hands of destiny are quietly arranging the pieces one by one. Sometimes, even the painful pieces are necessary. Think about a beautiful painting. The dark shades may not look appealing on their own, but without them, the painting would lack depth. Similarly, the darker moments of our lives add depth, wisdom, and resilience. Without them, we would not be complete. The beauty of a puzzle is revealed only when every piece finds its place. Likewise, the beauty of our life is revealed when we patiently allow every experience, whether joyful or painful, to find its place in the larger picture. If we remove even one piece, the puzzle remains incomplete. In the same way, every chapter of our life, no matter how hard, contributes to the story we are meant to live. Think of your own journey so far. Aren't there moments when you felt lost, but later saw how perfectly things worked out? Aren't there setbacks that now seem like blessings in disguise? Those were not random events, they were puzzle pieces being placed at the right time. So, whenever you feel confused about why something is happening, remind yourself, I am only looking at one piece. I cannot judge the entire picture yet. Trust that the masterpiece is still being created. Have faith that every piece will eventually fit, and what seems meaningless now will one day make perfect sense. Life's puzzle is not solved in a single day. It takes time, patience, and trust. Some pieces may come early, some may take years, some may bring smiles, some may bring tears. But all are necessary. When the picture finally comes together, you will realize that nothing was wasted. Not a single experience, not a single delay, not a single rejection. All of it had a place. So hold this truth close to your heart. Life is a puzzle. God sees the whole picture. Let it remind you not to lose hope when you don't understand what's happening. Let it teach you patience as the pieces slowly fall into place. And let it give you peace that even when life feels like a mess of scattered pieces, the hands of God are carefully arranging them into a masterpiece more beautiful than you could ever imagine. Struggles are not the end, they are preparation. This truth, if understood deeply, can completely change the way we look at the challenges of life. Most of us see struggles as obstacles, as walls blocking our way. as heavy burdens that we wish we could escape. When difficulties surround us, we often feel like it is the end of our happiness, the end of our dreams, or even the end of our hope. But the reality is, struggles are never the end. They are not meant to destroy us, but to shape us, strengthen us, and prepare us for the greater purpose that lies ahead. Think of the process of gold. Before it shines brightly in a jeweler's shop, it has to go through intense fire. The heat purifies it, removing impurities and bringing out its true beauty. If the gold could speak, it might say, "Why am I being burned?" But without that burning, it would never reach its purest form. In the same way, our struggles are like fire. They feel painful, but they refine us. They bring out the courage, resilience, and wisdom that we didn't even know we had within us. Take an everyday example, a student preparing for exams. The sleepless nights, the endless revision, the fear of failure, it all feels like a heavy struggle. But that very struggle is what prepares the student for future opportunities. Without the discipline and hard work developed during exam time, they would never be ready for the responsibilities of adult life. The exam is not the end, it is the preparation for the next stage. In nature too, we see this lesson. The butterfly must first be a caterpillar trapped inside a cocoon. Inside that dark, confined space, it struggles to break free. From the outside, the struggle looks cruel, but scientists have found that if you cut open the cocoon to help the butterfly, it never develops strong wings. It needs the struggle of pushing out of the cocoon to strengthen its body for flight. Without the struggle, there is no flying. Without preparation, there is no transformation. When we face struggles in our lives, it is easy to ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But perhaps the better question is, what is this preparing me for? Every struggle has a hidden purpose. When you lose a job, maybe life is preparing you for a career that truly matches your talent. When a relationship ends, maybe life is preparing you for one that will honor your worth. When you fall sick, maybe life is preparing you to value health and live with greater mindfulness. Each struggle is a silent teacher, guiding us towards something greater. Think of people who inspire us. Their stories are never free of struggles. In fact, their greatness often came because of the difficulties they faced. An athlete trains in pain. A musician practices for years in loneliness. An entrepreneur faces failures before success. And a parent sacrifices comfort to raise children. Behind every achievement you admire, there is a struggle that prepared the way. If they had quit during the struggle, we would never know their story. Even in small, daily examples, struggles play a role. Consider someone learning to ride a bicycle. In the beginning, they fall again and again. Their knees get scraped, and they may even feel like giving up. But those falls are not the end, they are the preparation. With each fall, they learn balance, and one day they ride freely. The same is true in life. Our falls are not the end, they are the training ground. Struggles also prepare us emotionally. A person who has faced heartbreak learns to value love more deeply. Someone who has faced financial hardship learns gratitude for even small blessings. A person who has walked through loneliness learns empathy and compassion for others. These qualities cannot be taught in books. They are born out of struggles. The pain prepares us to live with more kindness, patience, and understanding. When we think struggles are the end, we lose hope and sometimes give up too soon. But when we understand they are preparation, we gather strength to keep going. We realize that this difficult season is building something inside us that ease and comfort never could. Just like a muscle only grows when it is stretched and strained, the human spirit only grows when it faces trials. So the next time life feels heavy and you are tempted to say, "This is the end," pause and remember, it is not the end. It is the preparation stage. Life is strengthening you for something bigger, something more meaningful, something that your current self may not yet be ready for. Trust that the struggle is shaping you for the future you cannot yet see. One day, when you look back, you will realize how the darkest nights made you appreciate the brightest mornings. You will see how the storms you survived prepared you to enjoy the calm. You will recognize that the struggles you thought would break you were actually the very things that built you. And in that moment, you will smile with gratitude, knowing that nothing was wasted. So remember this truth deeply in your heart. Struggles are not the end, they are preparation. They are your training ground, your refining fire, your hidden blessing. Walk through them with courage, hold on with patience, and trust that life is preparing you for something extraordinary. One day, you will see that the very struggles you wished away were the foundation of your strength, your success, and your story.